During every parlay, our guest will play some Lego with us. Together, all ecosystem players will have co-created this Lego pirate ship. Welcome back, everybody. Today we have the honor of having Aelbrecht here from WinWinner.
Yes, thank you.
Aelbrecht, if you can please introduce yourself.
I'm Aelbrecht van Damme, and I'm the CEO of WinWinner. WinWinner is a young startup company, a matchmaker, a strategy partner for entrepreneurs and companies who are looking for growth funding.
Okay, everybody's looking for growth funding.
Yes.
But what stage of a company's trajectory is it most interesting for them to reach out to you?
To us, we focus on, today we focus on mainly beginning startups, young companies, going on to scale-ups, young SMEs, that's until where we go. We focus on projects where young entrepreneurs, I say young entrepreneurs, young companies, can really point out that they're looking to invest in something. Could be in their own growth, in their company, in people, in technology, and that they need growth financing for that. And that's where we start building on their financial case, try to build the right fin mix, and try to see which channels we can use to actually attract the right type of funding for the project that they have in mind.
What I found very interesting about WinWinner is actually you sit down and you figure out what is their funding requirement, and you actually question that and the granularity about that as well.
Yeah, that's correct. The reason why we didn't do that in the beginning.
Okay.
In the beginning, a lot of companies came to us and they said, okay, we need 50,000, 100,000, we need $1 million. And I said, okay, let's go for it.
I need $1 billion.
But then, we'll see about that, maybe one day. But really soon I saw that a lot of companies think they need a lot of money immediately. But if you start doing their cash flow analysis with them, and mostly we look at the first 24 months, where do you want to be at in 24 months? And then we start calculating how much money they actually need. And most of the time where they think, for example, they need $1 million, they will probably already get pretty far with, for example, 100 or 150,000 euros. So that's what we try to do. We try to help them to understand their numbers, to understand their costs, to maybe sometimes even cut their costs. Some investments, do you really need a platform of 250,000 euros? Or would it be wiser to create a good front-end page and to try to test the market first, and then start building that platform based on the needs of your clients, which will be most of the time less costly. Right? Mm-hmm. Based on that, we can most of the time reduce that financial need, and then we start looking the right type of funding for the right moment. We try to use different channels. We look for network funding because we try to involve the network of the entrepreneur as well. We look for bank funding. We address governments and of course also private investors at some points when the company is ready for it as well.
Mm-hmm. And the most interesting thing about that is founders are able to retain more percentage of their company.
Yes, definitely.
And that's a huge motivation for growth going forward.
Exactly. Because a lot of companies forget that. When they walk in and they say, I need a certain amount of funding, I need 200,000-300,000 euros, okay, no problem. But then you look at what is the company worth today? And then they're always very surprised that you have an investor on the other side who says, okay, I believe in your project and I'm willing to invest 200,000 or 300,000 euros, but you'll have to be able to give me 50 or 60% of your company. And then that's a reality check for them. Mm-hmm. Which is normal. An investor also needs to make money. He takes a huge risk, especially in really startup companies. So that's why we always say is let's look at what you really need and try to bootstrap as much as possible. Let's try to attract other types of funding. And once you're ready, you have a strong company and you can actually defend a certain valuation, that is the right time to start talking to also again the right investors with the right network, the right expertise, who then again can take it to the next level.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, absolutely. Albert, there must have been times when companies reached out to you, but they didn't follow your advice properly, or they didn't follow the direction that you wanted them to go into. What were some of the reasons that companies have failed after reaching out to you?
I think there are two big issues that I still see. One of them is definitely valuations. A lot of companies really think that they're completely unique and that their company is worth a huge amount of money, and that investors are really looking for them and really wanting to invest in them. And then you see, even if you advise them, you help them with their numbers, with their contracts, with everything, but the point or the moment that when they sit together with an investor, and that investor actually says, okay, I'm willing to invest, but that valuation is way too high, and they're not willing to give in at some point, that they actually took a long amount of time. They took months to sit together with an investor, and then something like that really demolishes the deal. And another thing I think that's really important next to valuation issues is internal discussions between founders. What you very often see is that, especially when you have 2 or 3 founders, sometimes even more, which makes it even more complicated, that they have not discussed what the impact will be once an investor gets on board. They don't have a clear vision. They don't have a clear strategy. They just think, okay, this is what we want to do. We need money. Let's go talk to investors. And at some point, they have an investor, and that investor asks them, makes perfect sense, who's going to be the CEO of this company? Who's going to be the CTO of this company? Who's going to be in charge? Who's going to take care of everything operational, HR? And then you see that they still need to have that discussion. And once you have some egos in place as well, you have 2 or 3 people say, I'm going to be the CEO. I always was the CEO. And then you have that discussion in front of investors. Oof. Done. Because you can already immediately see the conflict, and it's a lack of preparation before you actually start doing a funding round. So these are 2 things: valuations and
preparation.
And preparation definitely, and agreements between founders, between partners, where they want to go to. Something that can really be a deal breaker. Yeah.
So talking about from deal breakers to deal makers, you could have been doing so many things in the economy, right? And you have a legal background also.
Yeah, that's correct.
What made you change into this startup, scale-up, innovative sector of the economy?
Well, the startup world is a really interesting world. There's so much happening, there's so much evolving. I used to be a lawyer, so I did M&A at some big corporate firms, which was really interesting, big M&A deals. But at some point, I started to get interested in what the new economies were going to be. What are these startups doing these days? And I started myself with a very small startup just to explore the scene because I didn't really know what I wanted to do actually once I quit as a lawyer. And what I immediately saw was that a lot of these startups have really good ideas, really good concepts, and they work really hard. But they don't get the same advice as these big corporates. They take really important steps that are going to have an impact on their lives, on their companies for a very long period of time. But they don't get the right advice. They don't get the right contracts. They don't have the right strategy. They don't take enough time to build their financial analysis. And at some point, I made a decision for myself. I gained a lot of know-how. Working at corporates, going to business schools. Let's try to get that know-how to startups, to companies that really need it. And it's working.
Yeah. I mean, just to summarize everything, so startups are lacking in ideas about valuation and their preparation, but using your know-how, you're sorting those 2 big problems for them, right?
That's what we try to do.
Absolutely. Aelbrecht, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
To some Lego now, just if you can put on some pieces and then show it off. Leaf Array is a business accelerator that invests in innovative companies so that they can sell more and sell faster. Our program at Leaf Array is quite straightforward. We provide funding, added with the best partners, so that you can multiply your sales. And there's no hassle of moving to our locations. If you're curious as to how we can work together, do reach out to us.